Free shipping in continental U.S. only. See website for subscription offer details.
Calling all partners. Losing weight is better together with Nutrisystem's new partner plan. It's so much easier when you do it together. You'll both get new premium meals with up to 30 grams of protein. They're big and filling and taste delicious. New skillet selections that go from pan to plate in minutes. And new restaurant faves that taste like your favorite restaurant meals, portioned at half the calories. Powered by the science of ProSync to help keep your blood sugar steady and you losing weight. Motivate each other, keep each other accountable, and reach your goals with Nutrisystem's partner plan. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off everything. Don't wait. This special offer will not last long. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/diet.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm AB. I'm back. Nate is on assignment today, but I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Mike Spears. What's up, Mike?
Aaron, I'm thriving. It was 45 degrees outside as I took the little champion out for his morning walk as we record this on a Sunday morning. And I'm not much of a fall flavors person. You know, I go cranberry and apple over pumpkin. But the crispness in the fall air, the leaves changing. I'm a fall boy. And I know that that's a controversial take that fall is the best season. But right now, man, I'm doing good. I got to wear a knit hat for the first time in a while. And, you know, it's hoodie weather. This is Mike Spears time, essentially. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. There's a local park here in town that I went to yesterday just to kind of walk around and get some outside, inside. It's good for you sometimes, I think. And, we parked to start to walk, and it's a big, huge loop. I mean, it's, 3 miles or so. And we got started, and I was like, you know what, let's just do this damn thing. So we just walked the whole loop. And it took about an hour because we walked very slow because I'm very lazy. But it was a lot of fun. And, my cats didn't get absolutely destroyed and embarrassed at Georgia. So hard to ask for much more.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's a team of destiny at this point. I mean, we are a college football podcast, so let's get into it for a minute. I thought like that UK was admirable and gave them more of a fight than I thought that most teams will this year. I mean, Georgia is just going to sit on people, and the fact that UK got as many offensive touchdowns as all other games combined against Georgia this year, that's a big giant win. What's not a big giant win are the 2-4 Miami Hurricanes right now. Congratulations, Aaron Taub. Congratulations, big treat. This team is it's frustrating because it's something where Derek King came back. He had a knee injury. Then he got hurt again. So they're playing freshmen now, and the freshmen it's a team that like there's talent there, but it's very clear that the real story of the University of Miami Hurricanes is that they were a team perfect for their time and place. And each year we move away from that time and place. They more and more come down to earth, and it's just another year of that. I was talking in the Slack about Lane Kiffin today, and I was like, what would Miami be if they got Lane Kiffin? Because that is the dream coach for me right now. Is like they kind of need an asshole who's very charming and is like and gets younger football, and that's just not what's happened in the University of Miami basically since Larry Coker left, I would argue. I mean, there were a couple good Randy Shannon years. Mark Richt had like that 10-2 season, and then it's just been mediocrity. And I'm not like a crazy Miami Hurricanes fan, Aaron. You know this, that, like, I feel like that I'm probably one of the more based ones, but it's just insane to me that this is a team that right now is 2-4 and instead not like a perennial 8-win team. Like Miami should be an 8-win team in the ACC and should be going to Charlotte every other year. And that has only happened once. They've only made one conference championship game since joining the ACC. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating.
Let me tell you who's going to win 8 games this year. It's my Kentucky Wildcats. And
I'd be stunned if they didn't.
Oh, they have to. I mean, they'll be favored in every game they play the rest of the year. So I'm sure they'll blow 1 or 2 that they ought to win. But yeah, they should easily win 9, 10 games this year. So that'd be nice. Here's my question to you, though, Mike. Is there any talk among Miami fans about my man, Mark Stoops, a former Miami coordinator?
He was talked about for a while, like as a coordinator being brought in before he went to Kentucky, like being brought in. And then, because Stoops' time there was tail end of Coker into, I think, like the first year of Rainey Shannon, I want to say. Like he had a stint there, but I don't know. If I'm Mark Stoops, I stay at Kentucky over Miami. I stay at Kentucky because, I mean, he's on a career run. And did you know how great his contract is? He has like one of the best contracts in football where, for those who don't know, he has an automatic guaranteed extension each year he gets above 8 wins. Or is it even like 7 wins? Like, it's not a crazy amount.
7 wins.
So, I mean, I'd ride that until like this. I mean, like right now, his contract probably is going to be extended to 2027 at this point. So
yeah, it's already through.
I wouldn't leave.
It's already through something insane because he's won 7 or more games most years. That's probably not true because he had a very bad run the first 4 years because he came into a miserable team. But he's been great. It just so happens this year, and I was wrong. He was defensive backs coach at Miami. He wasn't a coordinator yet. But Miami and Florida State are 2 places he's coached, and they're probably, they might both have openings. So there's a lot of discussion among Kentucky fans about whether he would take one of those jobs. So,
I mean, it's going to be wild. It's going to be a wild one because, I don't think that I'm blanking on his name of the asshole at Florida State. And he is an asshole. That's not me being a Miami fan. This guy is a legitimate asshole. It's going to be an insane season. And of course, probably tying this into AEW, probably be a head football coach from the NFL looking to go back into the college ranks by the end of this season as well. So it's going to be insane.
Yes. Yes, that's true. All right. Well, that's the football portion of the show. You leave Mike and I alone. you never know what's going to happen.
That this might have been the most normal opening that we could have out of the 2 of us, to be quite honest.
That's true. We do always, just go with the old on assignment thing, but I want to take some of the heat here because basically I made plans to travel out of town today. I'm going to Nashville later today to see Jason Isbell. And so it just ended up to where when we wanted to record, it just didn't make sense for Nate's schedule. So, and I felt bad that I missed last week. So I wanted to be able to do it. So that's why we don't have Nate today. Everything's good. It's just, it was bad timing for Nate. So that's all. Real quickly, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Subscribe to the podcast, whatever podcast app you use. Just make sure you type in Everything Elite, hit subscribe, so you're always getting our shows as soon as they come out. If you use the Apple Podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and review. Subscribing and rating and reviewing, as I understand it, is very helpful to us as far as it helps people find the podcast. If AEW is growing rapidly, if people are looking for an AEW podcast, we'd like them to find ours first. And if you want to support the show, the very best way to do so is to go to patreon.com/everythingelite. Check out what we offer and subscribe. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Now, if you are not a patron, if you just listen to the weekly show, you know that we don't normally talk about Rampage on this show. We have a Patreon show dedicated to talking about Rampage each week. But this week, because of the weird timing of everything and the Saturday Dynamite, we really weren't able to do the Rampage show on the Patreon. So we're going to mix that into this show. So after we get done talking about Dynamite, we'll talk about the buy-in. We'll talk about Danielson versus Suzuki. I'm confident. We'll talk about Rampage. And that'll be kind of it probably won't be as similar to the shows we do on the Patreon, but, a little taste of something that we usually only do there. But stick around for that after we're done talking about Dynamite, and we will get into that. But as usual, we will start the show with Elite or Delete. Mike, you get to go first. How is that exciting? How do you feel about that?
This is very weird. Now I have to be like, all right, I'm on the ball now. I have to consider this thing. So I think, and I'm leaving you the one that I know you want here because I feel like you're going to go off on that, and you should. My favorite thing from last night was the Superkliq versus the Dark Order match. I thought that it was something really just exciting. It's something that you get to see someone like Adam Cole at this point who just it's remarkable the past month because he's been in this promotion now for approximately a month, and he's arguably the most over person not named CM Punk. And some weeks I would argue he's more over than CM Punk. And just him in these matches, and then the Bucks working just these are guys who might end up being the best non-singles wrestlers of all time. I don't think that that's an unfair assessment to make. They've been great in these trios, the Atomicos matches they've had, and it's with combinations of people too. It's not just the fact that it's just Superkliq or just Elite. When they were doing stuff with Hangman Page, when they were still on the same page there, no pun intended, they rule at it. And then on the other side, you have the Meat Man, who is the world's he is a rocket ship. And go with me on this. He is like rocket fuel in a rocket ship. You're seeing the engine go off there. He is one of the more dynamic wrestlers in the world because his size. He's someone that usually when you see someone of his height, you're not going to think he's going to be this power wrestler, but he is. He gets fired up. He goes and just does crazy things. He's this ball of charisma. And you had them all in there with Evil Uno, who I thought was an absolute blast in this match as well. And all in all, it just was just a great trios match. It was a great bridge match that they had on the show. And, afterwards you're further building up the babyface army versus the Super Elite. And I thought that in a show that felt very, very chaotic at times, I thought that this really kind of stood out as all right, we have the house match. We're moving storyline around. And it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes, because I feel like that now we're starting to really see the interconnectedness of the promotion at play here. Whereas sometimes you have people who are distinctly in their lanes, but not here. And it just was a incredibly pleasant about 20 minutes of television.
I couldn't agree more. We've talked about this many times on the show, but a nice little trios match on Dynamite is a treat. And it's something that works basically every time they do it. If you put the right people in it, it's a lot of fun. Of course, the Bucks and Cole and everybody in that Elite universe has always had these really great trios matches, or fun trios matches where they just understand how to work that, as we often refer to it, somebody referred to it in the Discord, this PWG style trios match that's just fun. And then they add that thing on top of it that you're talking about, that there's also part of a story going on here that really ratchets up everything that's going on. So that's exciting. I had to admit this week to myself and to others that I am fully chugs pilled. When it's all about the boom hit, I literally smiled, involuntarily smiled, and had to stop looking at Twitter to watch the TV, because you just have to watch his entrance. You have to watch Adam Cole when he's on your screen.
Yeah, it's something where when he gets on the apron and he's doing his finger point and we're getting close to crescendo, I find myself losing control of my hand and I'm starting to do the thumb point, and then when he does boom, I do boom back. It's just he's figured it out. Well, this is a guy who figured out how to be just incredibly entertaining in an entrance and in a way that's distinctly himself. He doesn't need pyro because he can make the crowd react to himself. And it's something that, like, I watched the AEW games Far Cry 6 stream with him and Evil Uno. And then, like, I was like watching, and it's something I had in the background as I was working, and I like would go look at the monitor I had it on. I was like, you know what? I've realized there's something very genuine and pleasant about this guy, that like it's very endearing. It's something that's like, all right, this person seems, at least as much as you could say in wrestling, like a decent person, and he's someone that, you know, is just very, very over. And it's something that it's just all coming together in a way that it's reminiscent in a way of how the early days of the promotion in 2019, how Cody became this basically this fan analog there that the crowd invested in, that like, you're like, oh, we did not see this before. And we're seeing it again on a much bigger scale right now of Adam Cole, and it's incredibly exciting to see.
I think people who listen know that I've really always disliked Adam Cole, and I have a tweet that I did that, you know, obviously sometimes you do a post, you're being a little hyperbolic, but I said, you know, congrats to Adam Cole for being very successful without being good at anything. And, you know, looking back, that's probably unfair because obviously he's always been very charismatic, and that is a skill when it comes to being a pro wrestler. I just never thought he was a particularly good promo or wrestler, like in-ring wrestler. But he's just magnetic, and that's something that you can't teach, you can't replicate. He just has that thing. There's a lot of other things I would love to improve about his game, but, you know, he doesn't have to. You know, it's working perfectly for him just how he is. And if he gets better, great at the other things. And if not, I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing in pro wrestling is this person fucking over? And Adam Cole has found a way to be fucking over. So, I mean, and it's something that you look in the crowd, and each week, like, you will see the CM Punk shirts first and foremost. And I think that's just something that is just this era of AEW. You're just going to see a lot of that. But at the same time, you see more of the All Elite Bebe t-shirts each week out in the crowd. And I'm just like, this guy, well, like, we know how they like to slow play things, but I'm like looking at this, I'm like, yeah, he's doing other things, and we'll get into the Eliminator tournament earlier. And I'm almost like half tempted to be like, this guy needs to win the tournament. We need to be doing the next big long-term feud should be Adam Cole versus Hangman Page for the AEW World title, because it does feel like that the iron is hot right now. And it's something where it's like, I think it's only going to go up and up, to be quite honest.
Yeah, you think back to the beginning of the company, and I believe it was a consensus thought that Omega is the guy in this company. And, you know, we talked at length on this show about why it made sense for Jericho to be the first champion. I stand by that. But I'm pretty sure if you go back and listen, that we all thought Omega needed to be the AEW guy that they would get behind, and he could be the top champion for a long time, like Mr. AEW. And I think that's kind of passed by in a lot of ways, and we'll see how Omega reinvents himself. And, you know, he's not done by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not sure he's going to reach that place that a lot of us thought he might at the beginning of the promotion. And I talked a lot at the time that they missed opportunities with Kenny early on to make him go to that next level. And I said I wasn't sure that could be recaptured, and I don't think it can be. It hasn't been. So all that said, it's like, even then we were talking about, well, who's the next guy? And we talked about the people they've now identified as the four pillars of AEW: MJF, Darby, Jungle Boy. Who's the fourth one? MJF, Darby, Jungle Boy.
Sammy Guevara.
Sammy. And, you know, and you think about Ricky, I think, is probably in that conversation also. But it's pretty clear that Adam Cole is the next main guy in AEW and should be the top AEW wrestler for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's something where it ended up like with Omega that, I mean, he's closing in on a year as champion. He probably won't hit that because of where full gear lands, but I mean, he virtually had a year as champion. And it's something that instead of going Mr. AEW, it's something that's more in the vein of a territorial champion, the way that he's kind of been going. Like an NWA champion, like back in the days of like Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk, so it's something that seems very reminiscent of that. But with like Adam Cole, and I would say also with like Hangman Page, like not to discount Hangman Page, like the iron is incredibly hot with Hangman Page, and you kind of have to see how far it goes with this guy. But it's something that like you look at how wrestling has evolved, and as we like look into 2022 and just like the other aspects that are tangentially evolved in wrestling, like he's a online presence, he's someone that you feel comfortable, like, and I'm not saying that the others can't, he's someone that if you wanted to have someone on the Tonight Show or Desus and Mero, just for example, just like a late night talk show host, I feel like he's the guy that you'd be like, oh yeah, no, I'd send Adam Cole out there. Like he's someone that comes across charming like that, and it's something that is something that would line up in a way that I don't know necessarily. Because like, yeah, no, you can send CM Punk on like on a talk show, but it's something that's not necessarily like the best use of CM Punk. But with Adam Cole, I'm like, oh yeah, that could happen. That could happen, like the intangibles. And I think it's a very unique set of intangibles that Adam Cole best represents wrestling in 2021 and 2022 in that way. And as a complete aside, isn't it wild there was really never any like Conan O'Brien crossover stuff with AEW before his show ended? Because when I was bringing up the talk show, it's like, oh, they never did anything with Conan O'Brien. And I find that kind of surprising now that I'm thinking about it.
They haven't had any talk show, as far as I know, any talk show presence. So I'm not sure that they've crossed over quite enough yet for that to be something.
Right.
I mean, John Cena is probably the only wrestler who, I mean, I'm sure Rock and Batista maybe, but as movie stars.
They would send the Miz out to stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when's the last time like anyone other than those people has been on a talk show. And I don't know. I mean, did Steve Austin do talk shows when they were hot? Probably, but I don't remember. So yeah, that's interesting. And I'm not discounting that Adam Page could also be that guy at all. It's just that Adam Cole has, I mean, I know that I was down on Adam Cole. I was the low guy, and I was wrong. There's no doubt about it. So, maybe it like seems like more of a rise in my head because I just saw him as nothing, essentially just like a guy. And it turns out that he could like carry the company. I think that's pretty clear. So I think Cole, and he's great as a heel. So I think Cole as a heel versus Page as a babyface is like an excellent long-term direction to have, like a story that can span a very long time in this company. And, you have MJF there too, who's also like a good foil, I think, for Page, because Page has that, country boy, homegrown type feel, which, bounces off of what MJF does perfectly. So I don't know, there's a lot of exciting long-term things that can happen for AEW without having to like dream too far about how guys can develop. So just an exciting time for AEW.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. My elite pick, speaking of Adam Page, is the Adam Page, what I think will be known as the Cowboy Shit promo. And I think it will be known as that forever. Whenever we talk about great pro wrestling promos, when people talk about Hard Times, when they talk about Austin 316, when they talk about, all the great promos of all time, I'm pretty sure this should be on the list. And when you watch it back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Adam Page isn't going to pop off the screen with the same charisma as Dusty Rhodes or Stone Cold Steve Austin, that era of Steve Austin, or The Rock or Ric Flair or any of these guys. And maybe if I'm wrong about this take, the reason will be that perhaps it is as great as it is in the environment that it existed. Because This guy shows you that the most important thing about a promo is that it sounds like you believe what you're saying, that it sounds real when he talks. You know, it's reminiscent of tons of promos from the territory era where a guy who maybe is not the best talker in the world, and Adam Page isn't, just has that thing that comes together that fits perfectly with who they are, and it resonates. What a great payoff of the whole anxious millennial cowboy thing that they've been doing with Adam Page, where he finally understands and gets across to the fans that he finally understands that he's worthy of being the champion, that he's worthy of having friends, worthy of being loved. I know it like that sounds like too much for pro wrestling, but that's what this is. And it benefited from AEW's ability to let time pass on some things. Adam Page didn't come out the very next week after saying one of these things where, I can't really believe in myself. I can't really trust people. But we got to breathe in this story. And then he comes out and he cuts this promo. And that made it perfect in so many ways. And hearing him lay it out the way he like tied it all together perfectly. You hear sometimes Cody will do a promo, for example, and Cody has done some great promos in this company. But you can hear the Obama thing Cody does, where it's like he had an idea that he wanted to weave through his entire promo, and he kind of pushes some things into it to make stuff fit the story that he wanted to tell in his promo. But Adam Page had this cowboy shit idea to weave through his promo, and he did it perfectly. It made sense at every turn. It made you feel things. You know, a promo has, the major purpose of a promo is to sell you something, right? That's why it's called a promo. You are trying to sell a ticket, get somebody to watch a show, buy a pay-per-view, whatever. But in the modern era, it also has to, and this is also true, of course, of earlier eras where you're trying to sell something, but it has to get that real personal investment in the character. And that's how tickets are sold nowadays, more than, oh, I really want to see this guy get beat up. It's like, oh, I really want to see this guy succeed. I've talked about this a million times on this show. But if you were wavering at all in your investment, your belief in the Hangman Adam Page character, you can waver no more after hearing this promo. Just hit every note. Perfect. Loved it.
It's something that you brought up, like the personal investment. And the thing that, like, my big takeaway from this promo, and one of the reasons why I think it was so effective in comparison to the Cody political promo, for lack of better words, this, if you took out Cowboy Shit and added in God, basically, this is a sermon. He basically gave a sermon, and it's something that I felt like is, religion, like, is one of those things that's intensely personal, and it's one of those things that, you're not supposed to talk about in polite company, but it was very much like he was standing in front of his congregation, and he was saying, like, because you believed in me, I believe in you, I now believe in me, and we're going to do this. And it's something that, you could very easily like make this and like change a couple words in and out of, and it's very much like people's like personal belief into whatever their deity is. And it's something that, as Aaron, we're both Southerners, like natively Southerners, this is something that, like, he gave a sermon that would not be out of place in any sort of house of worship in the South. And it's something that is innately, I would say, like, intertwined in a cultural fabric in a way that you can't have Kenny Omega give that promo. You can't have Chris Jericho give that promo. You can't have CM Punk give that kind of promo. This is something that I think is a promo, and I think that the way that it works and the way that it connects is very regionalized in a way, but it's also regionalized in a way that territories were just inherently regionalized, right? Because, Hard Times was happening. That promo was happening. I forgot if they taped in Charlotte or Atlanta that time, but deep in the South. And it's something that was very much like Dusty Rhodes was giving a sermon in that promo of like, if you're believing me, if you reach out and touch a screen, I'm touching you back. Like, that's very much like a charismatic preacher. And in a lot of ways, like, this is all, I don't want to say like a Book of Job like promo or like Jonah and the Whale, but it was something that like, as soon as like I like started thinking about like, this was a sermon, it just took it to another level, because you could see like it's something that I feel like that he played with and played off of it, that made it completely his own. And it's something that kind of cements everything. And it's, and I know you were trying, I don't want to blow up your spot there, trying to figure out like best promos in company's history. This is something that like has to be consideration, because it's so uniquely personal in a different way, that like the Cody Jericho Boomer versus Millennial promo is more like talking about generational things. Eddie Kingston's addressing his enemies, going first up, the man upstairs, I'm still alive. Like, that's a different kind of personal things. This was a different experience that happened, and it's something that it tells you that like in Miami, where you would think that this promo would not necessarily land as strongly as it did, but this crowd was incredibly receptive to Hangman. Like, this is a promo that like you would almost think that show after Full Gears when he would be doing this promo in Virginia versus Miami, Florida, but it owned. It was fantastic.
Of course, I mentioned Hard Times, but when you mentioned that line, it made me think about how much this really was an update on the Hard Times promo to modern times, because, Dusty works in the economy and how things are, the Industrial Revolution has been a disaster for, and its consequences have been a disaster for humankind, because, a computer took your job, et cetera, et cetera. But Adam Page updates it to modern, I don't necessarily buy into like, millennials are more self-centered or whatever, but
Touchy-feely.
Yeah, but it's certainly, this is more about, it connects more with an audience that is more introspective. Introspection was not always manly. I mean, it's not considered, traditionally masculine now. And it certainly wouldn't have been in 1985 when Dusty cut the Hard Times promo. But what Adam Page is ultimately saying in this promo is what Dusty Rhodes said, which, as you pointed out, my hand is touching your hand. The love that was, and I'm paraphrasing Dusty, but the love that was given to me, I will repay now. And I will become the world heavyweight champion. And that's what Page is saying, is that I lied. I said I would be the champion at the first show, and I failed. And then I kept failing over and over again. I failed at friendship. I failed at wrestling. I failed myself, and therefore I failed the fans. But you didn't give up on me. You gave me love that drove me forward, and I'm going to repay that. And maybe that isn't by winning the world title, but it is by believing in myself and being able to give all of myself back to you and to AEW in this big match that's coming up. I'm getting more fired up the more I think about this promo. Because that's what he's saying. And it's so relatable, and it makes you feel good. It's like, wait a second. Okay, I know Adam Page is working. I know this is wrestling. But folks, doesn't it make you feel good to think you cheered for this guy and it made him learn to believe in himself again? Like, if there's any truth to that at all, doesn't it make you feel like all this shit that we do is worth something? And that's what is great about wrestling. It's what's great about life. When life has great things about it, which I admit are rare, it's this. It's knowing that what you're doing has some value. And I don't know, I'm probably blowing it up, and I'm probably being a mark, but it's like, hey man, I don't know, maybe we helped this guy and maybe that helped other people, and it just feels fucking good. This is just the best part of wrestling, I think, is when it's
Oh,
like, oh, we have
absolutely.
this communal feeling of goodness, of value, of worth, of enjoyment, and it fucking rocks. So I love this promo. I will hold it dear forever. I am working. I think I'm maybe going to do a podcast or maybe even a written thing. I'm trying to think about it, about the best promos in AEW history. I got some people who suggested some on Twitter and in the Discord. If you have thoughts about what are the best AEW promos in history, I'd like to go through a lot of those that people think are great and talk about them and why they're great. Or if I don't think they're great, talk about that. And I want to work this promo in there and look at it. But, you know, all this will depend, of course, how this promo is viewed. Well, I'm not sure this is true, but I'm going to say it anyway. A lot depends on how this match turns out, right? It does.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's the longer term. He doesn't have to win this match, you know, but if he ultimately beats Omega and that's a big moment. But then I think back, you know, do you remember if Dusty won the match after the Hard Times promo? People look back on Austin 316. Of course, you know, that didn't turn into anything for several months afterward. You know, so promos, when we talk about promos now, a lot of them are divorced from the actual context of the wrestling. But just because this guy isn't the best talker in the world, I hope this doesn't get lost because I think it should be in the pantheon.
Yeah, and it's something that, like, this promo, uniquely enough, 3 minutes, we probably could spend the entire hour 15, hour 30 talking about this one promo because it's it's very no, I think it's uniquely fascinating because, like, when you brought up, like, millennials and you brought up, like, the idea about like the difference, like, generationally, and talking about, like, the industrialization as being a big part of Dusty's promo, whereas this one very much, like, tapped into his demographics, just general ennui, and in a way that, like, I know I was talking about sermon, but, like, to take it in a non-religious context and bringing up what you said about, like, investment and, like, paying it back. The overall theory of the third place that used to be church, but it could be like a bar, could be a union hall like this, for the community that watches AEW. In a lot of ways, the TV show, going to events, hanging out with friends, going in Discords and like this, is the third place. And in a lot of ways, he is the analog for that. So do I think he should win the match at Full Gear? Absolutely think he should. This is the right person to take the belt off of Kenny Omega, who pretty much has run through nearly every single opponent at this point, and there's not many fresh matchups here. But is it going to affect him, I think, if he loses the match? Like, I don't remember if Dusty won that match. I think that was like a Ric Flair match. Maybe it was like Starrcade 83, I'm thinking right now off the top of my head. But it doesn't matter because it resonates and it's timeless. And I think it's something that, like, as you're saying, I think this match will probably this promo will find its place in time and space, and will just kind of be one of those enduring things of, like, AEW ends tomorrow, and this still is something that I think would be in the pantheon of wrestling history.
Mike, I don't want to blow you up too much, but I honestly think that third place point you just made is one of the best points that's ever been made on this podcast. I really mean that. That was great.
Thank you.
And you're so right. And because, you know, the balkanization of culture, like, church is not as ubiquitous, you know, for people. Union halls certainly aren't, and there's a lot of reasons about that. But online is, and TV is, and we've kind of gone into these little communities. And yeah, the promo fucking captures that perfectly. That's what a great point. That is great. I had not thought of it that way. That was excellent. Okay. I thought we were going to have to throw in some more elites or more listener elites, but, you know, we found plenty to talk to about there. So I'll just hit one listener elite as we usually do. If you want to have yours considered for the show, you just got to join our Discord, and that is part of our Patreon. If you're a $5, $8 subscriber, you get access to the Discord. And we have a channel where we do elites and deletes during shows. So listener J-Pop says his elite pick is Arn Anderson taking accountability for his past misdeeds to Dusty. I think this works in with what we've been talking about already. But yeah, if you are someone who watched Crockett or, even just early WCW and enjoyed the Four Horsemen Dusty feuds over the years, this was just a fun little comment from Arn thrown into this very strange Cody segment that I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I mean, Arn is the best part of Cody's act now. Who thought that we would be saying this after months of the Waffle House menu? Like, Arn is, just killing it. Like, my only objection for it is it should not have been off an iPhone. Arn Anderson should be someone who has the same Razor phone that he's had ever since 1997 when his wife insisted he got a cell phone. And he should have pulled up, this crumpled up photograph from his wallet. And, I feel like that would have resonated a little bit more, but it's something that goes into investment and continuity yet again.
I listened to last week's show. I'm pretty sure it was on that show, and he was on fire. So I'm not criticizing this part of the show, but Nate was talking about Arn's kind of just being there for a lot of his time in AEW, and suggested that he hadn't done anything good in AEW until the great promo that he cut a couple weeks ago. I only want to say, and that part of it is my own investment in Arn, but the spine buster on Sean Spears at, what was that, All Out?
I was standing right next to you, dude. Yeah, was that All Out?
Yeah, that rocked. That was now I was very invested in the Cody character at that time, and Arn is not if I was making now he would be much higher on my greatest wrestler ever ballot than most people. But if I was just making a list of my favorite wrestlers, Arn would probably be top 5. I mean, I love Arn Anderson. And so it's been hard for me to see him suck. But I do think that was a great moment that I really enjoyed. But yeah, Arn was great in this segment for sure. All right. And, certainly months ago, I wouldn't have bet on that happening. But if you like to bet, my friends, you can do so over at MyBookie. They got over $500,000 in contest prize money up for grabs. NFL is back. NBA is about to start up. So winning season is here at MyBookie. You just go to mybookie.ag. You choose from a variety of boosts and free bets. Get in on the fan favorite $100,000 super contest. It only costs $10 to enter. You pick 5 games against the spread each week. Basically what happens is, so you're not betting each game like you normally would. You put down $10 on a game or whatever. You're picking 5 games for your $10 each week. And each one that you win against the spread, you get a point. And, whoever gets the most points at the end of this is going to be in for the grand prize. But there's other prizes too. And it is, there's over $500,000 available. If you want to get in on that or anything related to mybookie.ag, when you make your first deposit over there and use the promo code ELITE, you will instantly receive double your deposit. That's double your money to double your winnings with your first ever deposit using the promo code ELITE. So bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. But remember, folks, to bet responsibly. Take care of yourself out there. Okay, let's talk about our delete picks for the week. Frankly, a pretty good show, a really good show. So not a ton of stuff I didn't like, but I have one little thing that I'm irritated about right now that I'll get to. But Mike, what was your delete for this week?
I guess, and it's something that I ended up. Okay, I'm calling an audible here for myself personally. Backstage fights with the women's division. They did 2 of them within an hour of each other. First, it was Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida. Then it was Britt Baker and Anna Jay. It's something where, all right, there were at least 3 women's segments on the show, and it's sad that I have to say that's a positive step forward for them, and the fact that there seems to be now at least 3 or 4 feuds going on, a lot of them based around the TBS title tournament that's going to be happening. But it's something where you have announced this tournament here, and we don't know really anything about it other than they mention it's in the periphery. They've mentioned it's in the periphery on all the programming, and it's not real. They have matches like Penelope Ford versus Kiera Hogan. It's like, well, this is a match that's going to figure into the TBS title tournament. How? How is Penelope Ford figuring into this tournament? How's Kiera Hogan, who other than, or I'm just going to say on TV, has never won a match in AEW? How should she figure into this tournament while you're having these backstage fights? And it's just, it feels very incongruous in a way to me. And it's something that's like, I am glad that that things aren't just revolving around Britt Baker, at least this week, and that we have this other tournament as a title here. But when you have like two backstage fights, one of them is with your World Women's Champion, it makes the Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb one look weaker. When you have matches like Penelope Ford versus Kiera Hogan, you say, oh, it's in a direction of the TBS title tournament. And I've seen the run sheet. We're going to get into one of these listener deletes. If you do not choose this listener delete, Aaron, I will just go off on it when we get into it, like there, where like we're preparing for this title tournament here. And I mean, it's the same thing on Rampage, where it just feels like that they're doing these matches and it's supposed to have some continuity, it's supposed to have the continuity, and you're doing all these things here. And it just feels really disjointed. And I think like my one negative of the show is that it felt like the women's division was very disjointed this week, and it feels like they're doing stuff for the sake of doing a lot of stuff, but there's not necessarily a whole lot of meaning there, or you had something and you're muddling it down by doing the same segment twice.
Yes, you're exactly right, and my delete was going to be somewhat similar, so I'm just going to piggyback off of you, and we'll just make this the delete segment for the show, because as I said, there wasn't a lot of bad on the show, period. So first, not only are you right about these two backstage fights between the women, but it was similar all night with the entire roster of weird attacks, just constant attacks backstage. CM Punk was basically forced to comment on commentary, which is what you do on commentary, that, joke about how, oh, it's the most unsafe place is backstage. It's like, fuck, like, are we going to do this on every segment? So that was a little frustrating because there was less, I think, interference on this show. I'm trying to think back. There were post-match attacks like there always are, but some of that, it's like, okay, yeah, we've pulled back from some of the stuff you guys complain about a lot, but here's 30 backstage attacks on the show instead. It's like, we got to find some different ways to tell these stories and keep them hot. And maybe it wouldn't stand out as much. I think you're right, Mike. Maybe that wouldn't stand out as much if they didn't also be like, oh, wait, we've got to pretend like the women's division is important around here and there's a lot going on in it so we can sell this tournament, which, I'm thankful for, because we've had women's tournaments before that they ignored on TV. And by that, I mean both of the women's tournaments they've done before were completely ignored, essentially on Dynamite. So I'm glad it's getting some focus, but I'm very skeptical. I'm glad you mentioned there's 3 or 4, it feels like 3 or 4 stories are going on in the women's division. And I'm happy about that, but I'm keeping it all at arm's length because I feel like the blow off for all of these stories is just going to be a match in the TBS tournament, and that's going to be the end of it. It's not going to go forward. And even if that doesn't happen, it's like, well, they're only giving us one match per show in the women's division. So how are all these things gonna play out? They don't use Dark and Elevation as like parts of stories, really. I mean, sometimes, they had this little Diamante Santana Garrett story, but, you used to, and it wasn't constant, but sometimes a little story would spill over to WCW Saturday Night. This isn't necessarily the same type of thing, but like the Chris Benoit Booker T Best of 7 series. It's like, oh, we're going to put one of them on Saturday night. Like, that's fun. So, and yeah, people would complain, and I might be one of them, if the women's feuds were only on Dark and Elevation. But it'd just be nice to have something to sink your teeth into, which you don't really get. And this ties into that match. This is what I really want to talk about, was the Penelope Ford Kiera Hogan match. I mean, it was bad. I think everybody agrees with that. Somebody made the point in the Discord, it might have been Drew, I'm not sure, that the AEW women seemed to have figured out that when the match isn't going well, just hit each other hard, and that'll kind of get it going again. And that's true of every match. So, that's good. I like that. But I talked about this, I don't know, a month or so ago, that they have this problem of not putting the right women together in matches, where you have someone who can actually help keep the match together if something goes wrong. I was just complaining on, I think, Light, one of our Patreon shows. What happened to Kiera Hogan? They signed her. I think she got a graphic, and then she disappeared. And boom, suddenly here she is. No build to this match. No reason why these two people are fighting. And no reason for you to be invested in Kiera Hogan as the winner. And it wasn't good. They weren't able to put together a good match because these women aren't getting a chance to work with each other, and they're not giving a chance to be led by somebody. Look, Kiera Hogan and Penelope Ford, you could have done tags and trios for weeks on Dark and Elevation to give them some chemistry. You could be doing that with all these women. Instead, it's these 2-minute matches between Kylan King and not even Kiera Hogan, but imagine it's Kiera Hogan. That doesn't really do anything for anybody as far as their development. So that's the part that I don't really understand. I posted AEW should try putting 2 women together who are good in a match, which is true. They often don't do it, but they also could just let these people get more chemistry with each other by working tags, trios, and singles matches on Dark and Elevation. That's what it's going to take to build the women's division in a way where you can just throw 2 people together and let them have a match and it'll be good. They got to get reps. And there is no plan that I can tell in AEW for that to happen, for people to get reps working against each other. So you can make a new title. You can have 5 women's matches every week, but it's never going to get better until you invest the time in letting these people get reps that matter together.
Yeah, and it's just matches without meaning. And I think that that's the other side of it. Like, yeah, then you get the reps and then you need to get X, Y, and Z happening. It's just something when you look at now they're up to 7 hours, I would say. 7 hours of matches a week. And there's just so many stuff that, like, if it's not one of the 9 matches that happens either on Rampage or on Dynamite, you might as well just count them as not happening because they're matches without meaning. So what do you do with those matches without meaning? Do the trios that you're talking about. You pair up someone with your Serena Deebs, with your Ryu Mizunami, who's back in America. You pair them up with this. Like, that was like one of the cool things about when Ryu Mizunami won the Eliminator tournament and stuck around afterwards, but she was teaming with Layla Hirsch. And it's like, all right, that's a great way of, one, you're giving everyone something to do. You have like a mentorship thing going on there. And of course, like, Layla is able to learn from that, and you're able to have people have matches with this tag team. And it's just that there's a lot of stuff that just feels with, and it's not just with the women's division. It's something getting into like the Eliminator tournament where like wins and losses matter in this company. And it's something that I've talked about a lot recently, but I'm going to talk about it again. Yes, wins and losses matter, but it feels like that they're basically counting stats. It's something that, it is your RBI of this promotion here. So what does Penelope Ford get out of winning this match? Not just another point up in her win column. And we don't really have a meaning as like, what is this match really worth? Is a match worth having to boost up Penelope Ford's win-loss record and to fill up time on TV and have your women's match on TV for the week? And it's something that, like, what happens on Dark and Elevation. Oh, there are matches that people get ring time, and that's important. But it's really just to, like, bolster the win-loss record. So it just makes things mean less. And having those trios matches, having those relationships, it would make things mean more. And it's something that's why, at least I completely understand why you're arm's length away from the majority of the women's division. And it's something where maybe my expectations, and I'm someone that, like, I go in things with like a relatively open mind. I just have no expectations of anything really amounting to anything with that.
Oh, absolutely. But if Tony Khan came to me and he said, Aaron, I've been listening to Dynamite. I've been listening to Everything Elite every week. And you seem to have a lot of criticisms of the women's division. If I could give you one job to handle so that you could address your criticisms with that, what would it be? And you could easily say, oh, let me book the women on Dynamite. I'll fix this immediately. But it's like, all right, I am on the board of this nonprofit, right? And I think I've probably talked about it before, but I'll be cryptic about it regardless, just in case I haven't talked about it. But our goal is to get a piece of legislation passed in the end, okay? So we hired some organizers, and it's the first time we've had full-time organizers on staff in a long time. And, you know, I said, organizers, I want you to do ABC. And they came back to me and said, Aaron, there haven't been organizers in so long. You know, this has been handled in a different way. So there's a lot of build-up work we need to do first, you know, before we can get to what you want to happen. And I was like, great, I'm not an organizer. I trust you. So show me your plan. Let's execute it. And they're doing a great job of that exactly. And that's what I would say to Tony Khan. It's Tony, you can't just hand me the pencil for the women's matches on Dynamite, and I can't create you a division that will rival the interest and the quality of the men's division today. I can't do it. I won't have it done for you a month from now or 6 months from now. But give me the women on Dark and Elevation. Let me have them. You tell me who the women are. You tell me who you want to win to work your wins and losses. I don't care. But let me focus on who goes together in matches, who works against each other, who learns from whom. And that is the best thing that Tony Khan could invest in to improve this women's division. The women are there. Yes, I think they should sign a bunch more women. I think there are a lot of quality women out there they could invest in, but they have the people to put on very good matches on Dynamite and have a division worth investing in on a real level, and matches that deserve to main event Dynamite, pay-per-views, everything. They've got the talent. They just have to invest in it on an organizing level of actually building it from the ground up. So that would be, you know, and I'm not pitching myself for a job, but if Tony asked me what he should do, that's what he should do. Focus on that. This is just the Aaron Rants edition of Everything Elite. So the people who were glad I wasn't on the show last week, not enjoying this episode. Listener delete. I am going to pick that one because it goes with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, brother of the show, Drew Spears, deletes the logic of who gets in these tournaments. Now, he's talking, of course, about the Eliminator tournament, which we'll talk about more. He says, you have rankings and make sure people who are protected don't eat losses. Malachi Black, CM Punk, Adam Cole, all undefeated. Darby and MJF and Miro, Pac and Andrade, those people barely ever lose. Then you put together a bracket with 4 guys who job all the time, and there's no doubt who the final 2 are. It's fucking stupid. Just have Mox and Bryan win a few more and announce a number 1 contenders match. Now, sometimes they subvert expectations on the finalists in these tournaments, but I don't think Drew is wrong at all with any of the points he made in that.
No, Mama Spears raised smart cookies in her family. It's something that, like, I know I'm hammering this dead horse. Like, strength of schedule should be something that they actually incorporate in here, because you look at, like, Dustin Rhodes going up against Bryan Danielson in this tournament. Dustin Rhodes hasn't been on TV wrestling since Malachi Black beat him. Like, how does he get justified in here? He gets justified being in here because everyone else can't take losses, or everyone else is in a storyline that, I guess, for some reason, the storyline supersede getting a title shot in a tournament that's in a company that's supposed to be all about, like, the title belt, and the title belt is supposed to mean everything here. Why wouldn't MJF and Darby both want to be in this tournament? You make that, like, the first round matchup there. Like, there you have a match there that you could have that on TV. It can end in a way that's not going to be the end of the feud. Like, it's the start of the feud there. And it's 2 people that rightly deserve to be in this tournament. what does Preston Vance done other than like improve greatly in the ring, but like looking at like win-loss record and a company that preaches win-loss records to justify his placement and theoretically being one of the top 8 wrestlers in the company without a title? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So if you wanted to make him like this was like a 16-person tournament and you wanted to say 1 seed, 16 seed, 16 seed, 10, Preston Vance, 10, Preston Vance, sorry, just because I was saying numbers, want to make sure I was saying the name right. Absolutely. Go do that. Make sure it's clear that it's like, okay, we have ranked this person number 1 coming into this tournament, and Preston Vance, he's doing well, but he's not one of the top 8 people, so he gets a tougher matchup, and he has to face the person who's currently ranked 1 in our rankings. There's a way to make all of this make sense here, but they did not make it make sense here, and it takes out almost all measure of doubt in at least the first round matchups, unless like we're going to get someone doing an interference spot and then we get an upset there. But you like look at this and you go like, oh, it's going to be a chalk tournament. And as Drew said, it'll be Moxley versus Bryan at Full Gear, which if that's going to be your obvious direction there, then yeah, just have them build that to a match. Like these are the 2 guys who are on a winning streak here, and we're going to decide who gets the next title shot at Full Gear. Don't do a tournament where it's just like doing a tournament for tournament's sake.
Yeah, my first criticism was, oh, why don't they use the rankings in this? Then I pulled up the fucking rankings, and these guys are ranked. Like, the 2, 3, 4 guys are Hangman, Archer, and Orange Cassidy. That's not in exact order, but those are the guys who are 2, 3, and 4. Okay, well, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, I don't care what their win-loss records are. If you watch AEW, you know those are not the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best people, not the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th people who are most in line for a title shot because of what they've accomplished in AEW. It doesn't make any fucking sense. None. And even then, Miro is 5th. Well, where's he in this tournament? Even if you accept that the rankings are involved. So that tells me the rankings don't have anything to do with it. Then you look back at the Casino Ladder match. Well, you could and a few things stand out to me from that. Pac and Andrade were both in that, so they were apparently deserving of a shot at the title, but they're not in this. And if you say, well, they had their chance, okay, but Mox and Archer and Orange Cassidy were all in that match and didn't win, and now they're in this. So none of it makes any sense. You could easily, if you wanted to have this exact tournament, at least give me a little thing you put up on YouTube where Tony Khan talks about how he picked everybody for the tournament in kayfabe.
Bracketology, baby. Bracketology segment.
At least give me something, because Dustin Rhodes doesn't make any sense. 10 doesn't make any sense. It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, as you said, I mean, Darby, maybe not MJF, but probably MJF. Darby, Adam Cole, CM Punk, they should all be furious that they're not in this tournament. And it insults our intelligence that we're not going to see them cut promos talking about how they're furious they aren't in this tournament. So, yes, tournaments in this company have generally been bad from this perspective. Now, there will be great matches in this tournament. I'm confident. I think Dustin Rhodes versus Bryan Danielson is a fun match that I'm happy to watch. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. If Bryan and Mox is the finals, that's a fun match that I'm happy to watch. But I just need a little more out of wrestling. I talked about it in the Adam Page promo. I need that. I need you to give me more than just here's some guys and some matches and here's what we're getting to in the end.
Right. And it's something that, not to belabor the point here, if wins and losses and rankings matter so much here, you need to provide justification or else you're just committing self errors. And it feels like to me that this tournament, with the justifications they use, and some people say like, oh, you're being nitpicky, but how much do they bring up win-loss records? How much do they bring up rankings? If they are making this like like pretty much other than when Tony Khan makes a match and he's like, Tony Khan has just made this match. If they're making these be one of the focuses of booking, then this tournament is completely disregarding that, other than putting 2, 3, and 4 on your rankings in this tournament. Because you look at the rest of this tournament bracket and you just go like, what? I mean, unless you're watching all 7 hours of TV, you would not be saying, oh, Preston Vance deserves to be in this tournament. And as someone who watches nearly 7 hours of AEW a week, I don't think if you were to like ask me, okay, who are your top 8 people, he would not make the tournament. And it's just frustrating.
And to my sports people out there, every time I talk about win-loss records, somebody says, well, in UFC, you don't have to be in the top 10 to get the next match. Well, show me a tournament that exists in sports where you don't have to do anything to earn your way in. Nothing. You're just dropped into the tournament. Show it to me.
We hope you're enjoying this podcast sponsored by U.S. Bank. U.S. Bank has had endless stories of taking side gigs to the next level. Their recipe to success is simple, providing the support and partnership you need, just like a family member would. Bringing you that peace of mind that is much needed, but also sprinkling you with confidence to strive for greatness. Because the sky's the limit, and they'll make sure you get there. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Back to the episode.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now enjoy a large iced coffee for just $2. Add a breakfast sandwich to make a meal. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
All right, let's talk about the rest of the show. And there's some other good stuff that we haven't even mentioned yet. So we'll get a chance to hear, even though we've gone an hour just on big picture stuff. But that was all fun. I mean, I'm having a great time. So I hope the listeners are. So the show kicked off with Malachi Black versus Dante Martin, and Black won with a spin kick.
Yeah, this was really, really exactly what you would want out of this match. I think that the added wrinkle of Dante Martin selling a knee that was consistently worked on, and Malachi Black using that as a focus in one of his matches when really he hasn't been doing limb work in his matches. He's just been murdering people. I feel like that was really, really fascinating. And I like the idea that Malachi Black does different offense for different people. CM Punk on commentary did not make my elite, but I would like to say, maybe you need to have CM Punk out there whenever you have Jim Ross, because he was able to talk Jim Ross the entire 2 hours. And it was something that, here was it kind of like stood out to me, like from the start. It's like, all right, Jim Ross seems good this week. And it's CM Punk who's engaging with him here. And they were really working on this, but this match was great. It was exactly kind of what we were hoping for. Like, I know you said you were wanting like one big hope stretch for Dante Martin. We got like little flurries of it, and not just one big stretch here. And I felt like it accomplished a whole lot. Malachi Black, who should be in this tournament, looks like a killer. And it's something that like now we have like a good direction for Dante Martin with the stuff that happened later on in the show. And it was exactly what I would want out of a Malachi Black and Dante Martin match.
Yes, it's a match that in some contexts I would hate, because I think Dante lasted a lot longer than, in kayfabe he probably should have with Malachi. Now, first of all, I understand sometimes I have to set that aside because that's not what happens in AEW. But second, I'm willing to believe that this is the start of a Dante Martin push. Or, not even the start. We're a little bit into the beginning of a Dante Martin push. And if they focus on this guy and elevate him, then this is great, because it did put him on a higher level by being able to hang with Malachi Black in this match. I mean, he hung better than Cody Rhodes has, right? He hung better than anybody has, really. So I think this was important for Dante Martin. It also, because of what you talked about, for the first time, I thought of Dante Martin in this match as a future singles star. You could see it here. The fact, I know not everybody cares about this, but at 20 years old, the way he was able to sell the limb work throughout the match at all times. Keep that in mind. Constantly remember to do it, and do it in a way that didn't take you out of the match. It was worked perfectly into the context of the match. It was compelling. He was excellent in this match. And I think Malachi Black has shown in AEW that he's an excellent pro wrestler. But Dante Martin was not outclassed in this match as a pro wrestler. Like, just in-ring pro wrestler. Not at all.
Yeah, and it's something that it shows you, like, another... I like talking about the tool belt on other shows. It's a tool that you're putting into Dante's tool belt. He knows how to do, like, this kind of selling in a way that's not insulting anyone's intelligence, and it felt incredibly natural. Like, when he would go up for springboards, he would come down hard on his leg and would try to shake out there. He would try to do one-leg springboards. Like, it all lined up there, and he had Leo Rush on the outside, who he instantly became a meme with Leo face, and it all just was like something that, like, it checked all the boxes. Like, if you, other than Aaron, you probably would want this to be a 5-minute match where it would be Malachi Black domination, then Dante sells the leg during his hope spot, and then he gets a black mass and goes down. I think this accomplished everything it needed to accomplish and more. It got some extra credit too.
I agree. And not to be, I don't know, when you think about him as a future star, my thought, and maybe this is just, whatever, wrestling brain over the years, is like, well, is he big enough to be like a top star? I couldn't find out how tall he is, but looking at picture stuff, he's probably around 6 feet tall, if I had to guess. And his body, at 20 years old, I started thinking about Will Ospreay and the way that Will Ospreay was able to really, as he was around a similar age, a little bit older than that, fill out. And he got like big to where he's like, okay, this guy's believable as like a main event top star. Whatever you think about Will Ospreay, he was believable as a main event player in New Japan, at least the last time I was watching. I don't know if I know he's not there right now for various reasons. But it's like, Dante has kind of a slim frame, so I don't know how big he can get. But, Will Ospreay did too. And that worked out. So I don't know. This is just the first time I've thought about Dante as a superstar with superstar potential.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating. This is the kind of thing that I'm a real sicko about. I love saying, like, all right, this person now has this projection, this ceiling. Now we get to see how things play out here. Is he going to, like, put on, like, the heavyweight muscle that Will Ospreay did? We will see. Is he going to, like, be like, all right, now I know how to be, like, an insanely compelling babyface because I sold my legs so well in this match. I know I can do this and get the crowd invested. We'll see. This is the shit I live for, Aaron. Like, this was, like, exactly what I wanted here.
Absolutely. Excellent way to start. And then we had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus backstage with Tony Schiavone. Jungle Boy's talking about how Jurassic Express is all banged up. Omega and Cole interrupted. The Bucks showed up. They brawled. Big attack here.
Yeah, Brandon Cutler took the camera. That was the funniest thing. And then he did a thumbs up on camera, which cracked me up.
And, Jungle Boy is like, has a similar spot or place compared to where you would want Dante Martin to be. And I think comparing how those two evolve is going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, what's going to be Dante Martin's 10-minute draw with Chris Jericho? Like, I'm fascinated by that idea.
Absolutely. And, it looks like they're interested, but it's going to require, as it did with Jungle Boy, as it does with everybody, usually, the promotion getting behind him and giving him that 10-minute draw with Chris Jericho. So that's worth paying attention to. But again, if you're listening, I'm putting you on notice. Dante Martin can be, and hopefully you know this, can be a superstar. So give him an opportunity, give him a chance to get there. Inner Circle is in the ring, and they very smartly, I liked this, they let Santana run with the ball. They're in Miami. He plays into that perfectly. And Santana is a excellent promo. Another guy that I think Nate has talked about, like, Santana should get a singles run. I co-sign that take. Dan Lambert, American Top Team interrupt. Jericho spends like 3 minutes going at Paige Van Zant for some reason. I'm not sure
Just
what
being
that's
creepy.
about.
Just being
Very
creepy.
creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And very strange. Chelsea had mentioned this in her dealie. It's like also strange as like Jericho's the babyface in the story and Paige is the heel in the story. So anyway, it didn't make sense at all. I'm interested to see if that's supposed to go somewhere or if Jericho just wanted to do that. Jericho wants a 5-on-5 match. Dan Lambert says, hey, we're only interested in titles. We see that Sammy's the only one in there who has one. So we're going to make Sammy do something to get that 5-on-5 tag. Dan Lambert's going to tell us next week what that might be. And Scorpio Sky gets on the mic to point out, just to highlight for everyone that he pinned Jericho on Rampage, and that was the second time he's pinned Chris Jericho in AEW.
Yeah, I thought that other than Chris Jericho being weird and doing like Stephanie McMahon like put downs in 2021 on Paige Van Zant, I thought this was incredibly effective. It's something about considering like how Dan Lambert's time really kind of started in this promotion, and like some of his promos just obviously very clearly being a Jim Cornette analog for part of it, and now is like shifted. And the fact that he's doing this in his hometown of Miami and getting that kind of heel heat was really kind of remarkable there. I think that, and I guess it's something to talk about from Rampage, I think the American Top Team act is actually like one of the more like compelling and interesting things happening on the show. Junior Dos Santos for Wrestling Observer Rookie of the Year, by the way. I think that we should really get behind that because Junior Dos Santos ruled like this. It looked like he was having the time of his life, but I thought that was all a whole lot of fun. And like you look at this and it's like, all right, we're eventually going to get that 5-on-5, I guess. And it's like, even with Men of the Year in there, we know now that Junior Dos Santos, you can get him in a match and you get him to do things and it comes off incredibly well. Like adding in like other MMA stars is just going to be like real crazy and really weird. And Aaron, like my least favorite thing about wrestling is when things are boring. This will not be boring. At the very least, if this is going to be a disaster, it's going to be a disaster that's going to have a huge fireball that comes attached to it. And I can't wait to see where it goes next.
This has a lot going for it because it's super over. It's one of the hottest angles, if not the hottest angle in the company. The crowd is nuts for it. And that's a big surprise, as you mentioned, about how this started. But it also has going for it that it feels so insanely fresh because you see guys you haven't seen on TV for 3 years or for 30 years in some of their cases. And so it's got that going for it. Junior Dos Santos, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, but absolutely delivered. And so, yeah, can't wait to see what happens. I guess it's not going to be in the 5-on-5 unless a woman joins the inner circle. But Paige Van Zant, I understand. I've been informed that she does not need the money, but she's got to become a pro wrestler. Like, get her in the ring.
God, her on Rampage and her on Dynamite, just like MVP, I would argue, of both shows. Like getting into the ring afterwards and pulling up Instagram, like doing selfies while kicking them, just rules. And she gets it on a level that's like, this is someone that, I mean, WWE wanted Paige Van Zant for a long time. Like this was something that, like, dating back, because I think she was on a season of The Ultimate Fighter, like 2016, 2017, when she was really young, and everyone's like, oh yeah, no, she should go into wrestling. Yeah, she should. And AEW, now that they have her on TV, need to find a way to use her a whole lot more, because it's something that they need to get a female member of the inner circle, because we need to get Paige Van Zant involved in this match. We have to at this point. Like, it's got to happen.
I might have been the high person on Ronda Rousey as a pro wrestler. I didn't watch all her stuff, but the stuff I watched, I thought she was great. And she has a lot of physical charisma, but no charisma as like a talker in any way, or like even her facial expressions are very bad. Ronda Rousey, just everything seems fake. Paige Van Zant, like, immediately is able to have characterization in a charismatic way. So, and I know she isn't a tenth of the fighter Ronda Rousey was or whatever, but I bet she could be an excellent pro wrestler. Okay. I also like this. Look, Scorpio, not my favorite, but I like that they're continuing that thread. That's interesting. And they're giving you something to sink your teeth into. So that's nice. All right, next up, the AAA tag titles. So what we knew is that it was going to be the Lucha Brothers against a surprised masked team. Mike and I went through all the possibilities on Light over on our Patreon. And we basically came to the fact that it should be gringos, that we all knew who they were, in masks. And that's what we got, Las Superanas. And it was FTR under the masks, which was pretty quickly unveiled. The masks were taken off pretty quickly. And FTR wins the AAA tag titles. FTR bald pinned Phoenix after a brainbuster and a belt shot.
Another thing that CM Punk did great on commentary was he played along with the fact that that Las Superanas were a tag team. It's like, oh, where's El Canek at this point? Could they not fight El Canek? And then very clearly he was like hamming it up for a second. And then he dropped all the pretenses even before they're unmasked and said like, oh yeah, look at them. That's FTR. That's FTR. And it just was nice to have like people not insulting your intelligence, because FTR have two very distinct body types, even when they're wearing full body suits and masks. So like it really picks up from there. Interesting kind of response for FTR winning the tag team titles and what it was like a fun match. Like this crowd, like Miami sometimes is off and on as a wrestling crowd, but this crowd got into this match in a way that I was a little bit surprised how much they were into a FTR versus Lucha Brothers match. But like the response that we've seen about people about FTR becoming the tag team champions on AEW TV after Lucha Brothers being, I think it was almost 2 years being, or maybe just over 2 years being tag team champions, has been kind of interesting. People who are more ingratiated in the lucha scene are like, oh yeah, this is going to be exactly what you expect, or everyone should blame Conan, which, yeah, I mean, sure, Conan probably wants a job at AEW, but wouldn't have AAA really shown any deference to their titles. But I thought this was a lot of fun, and I liked how they immediately paid off on why they were here, and, showing the interconnectivity of FTR doing this for Andrade not more than 10 minutes later. I thought that was all really well done.
My major criticism is another one of those things that I just have to learn to live with if I'm going to watch AEW, which I am, which is I hate champions losing matches that aren't for the promotion's titles. So there was interference, or there was whatever, a belt shot and all that stuff. So I get that. I just don't like seeing Phoenix get pinned, period. So even in this kind of scenario, I wish they would have pinned Pentagon, but those are just things that I hyper focus on. This was fine as it was. And, FTR pretty dead as an act. So this is a pretty good way to try to get them going again. So, I don't mind that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Like, this is something that for this tag team to really have any juice, they need to have some reason to have juice. And this was a smart way to do so. And I'm very excited for FTR showing up in Mexico to no response, working their kind of match and everything trying to go their way. And it's just, no one's going to be interested in it. That's going to be very funny to me. So, yeah, no one should pin Phoenix, though. Phoenix now. You're absolutely right about that.
All right, my rants are making the show go long, so we'll speed run the rest of this.
It's all good, bud.
LBO, what's that?
It's all good.
Yeah. LBO, Leo, and Dante are backstage with Tony Schiavone. Tony, very busy on this show. And the upshot of this is Leo announces that he is going to be tagging with Dante going forward.
The look on Dante's face told the story here. I love this act, and it's going to be a good thing for when Darius' knees heals up and he comes back there. Like, you have a natural storyline here, and I think that this will be a fun thing. Like that's the thing about this show. Like, really, everything on the show, with the exception of some of the backstage segments, everything worked. And it's something that, for these Saturday night shows, remember last night Saturday night shows, we were just kind of just groaning through it and said, this was a great episode.
And I don't know what the plans are with Leo, but if you kind of assume that you're not assuming Leo's going to be in this company for the next 10 years or whatever, then when Darius comes back, Dante beating Leo in a singles match is like a great way for him to continue being elevated. So I like this. I'm excited about it. And Leo's good. So them tagging together should be fun to watch.
And maybe we can get the Blackheart Leo Rush after that. Like we need to get the Blackheart on TV.
That's right. And as Mike mentioned earlier, the next segment, we had Tony Schiavone catching up with FTR and Andrade as they were leaving through the stairwell. MJF is there. They do a thing where Andrade is paying him for FTR's services, and MJF just, emphasizes that it was a one-night only thing. So we shouldn't think there's any tie between Andrade and FTR. So a nice bow tied on the segment.
Yeah. The only other kind of funny thing about this was MJF insisting on both cash and a check. That was the other thing there. But yeah, yes, Tony Schiavone, the person who's on the show the most this week, now that I'm looking at a run sheet.
Yes, he was. MJF. No, I wrote MJF. It was Jon Moxley, of course, versus Wheeler Yuta. And it lasted about 10 seconds, and Mox won with a paradigm shift. Yeah, so we're building Mox. It's similar to, I think, how they did Omega in the first eliminator, or I don't know if it was the first, but the last eliminator tournament. That's kind of what we're doing with Mox here. Tony was backstage with Serena Deeb. She says that while she was on her sabbatical, she noticed that the women's division was too fun. They got too comfortable. I'm not sure what Miss Deeb was watching, but they're also, it makes sense after the thing with Shida coding her much more heel, and Hikaru Shida attacked her. So we're continuing that story.
I mean, as Nate and I were talking about, they got to find a way to keep Hikaru Shida at 49 wins for a while because this is actually pretty interesting. It's just a shame that the other women's backstage segment that happened less than half an hour later wasn't basically the exact same thing.
The trios match was next. Adam Cole pinned Alex Reynolds after a BTE trigger and the boom. I guess it was Excalibur, but the way he called it was just something like, and Adam Cole lowers the boom. And it was just the way he said it. It was like, oh, this is a dumb name for a move, but you figured out a great way to just throw it in there without it sounding so dumb. So it was nice.
Absolutely.
After the match, Jungle Boy came out. Of course, he was outnumbered, but he grabs a chair. Everybody runs except Cutler. This was a fun little part where he blocked Cutler's cold spray with the chair, then hits the chair shot on Cutler, puts him in the snare trap, and hits the cold spray in the face while the rest of the Super Elite look on.
Great flunky. All-time great flunky, Brandon Cutler.
Absolutely. This was good. I hope we get a Jungle Boy versus Cutler match. I think that should definitely happen.
Did you ever watch that Kaz versus Cutler match that I was talking about where Cutler just eats shit for 5 minutes?
Was that on YouTube?
That was on Dark. Yeah, it was on YouTube.
I don't remember it, so I must not have.
Cutler's would be great in that kind of match. I wanted to see this really badly. Just replay it, but use Jungle Boy spots in instead of the Elite Hunter. No Elite Hunter on the last few TV shows, by the way.
Very sad.
Why isn't he in the tournament? He has he beats everyone other than the Elite. That's a strong win-loss record. He should be in this tournament.
You're not wrong. Then we had this Cody vignette. Basically, he shows up at the Rhodes Wrestling Academy, and the people there are mad that he's late. They're calling him Hollywood. They got him in the ring doing some wrestling drills where everybody's kind of coming at him, and he's doing arm drags and whatnot. But they're, getting the better of him. He gets mouth blood, and then Arn shows him a pic of him and Dusty. He says, I know, I hear you. You don't want to let the kids down. But this night, and this is a picture of Dusty getting blood from Arn. And he says, do you think on this night that there was any kid in that building that thought Dusty let them down by putting 36 stitches in my head? No. And Arn says it's because he had it coming. And he tells Cody that Malachi Black has it coming. This is excellent storytelling. This whole thing where Arn ties in, you don't let, and it plays on to things that Cody, not the wrestler, but Cody the person, actually thinks and says, oh, I can't be heel because, I want the kids to be happy and support me, blah, blah, blah. But Arn turns it into pro wrestling, which is No, that's you're not. You are doing what the kids and what everybody needs you to do when you overcome evil, right? So it makes perfect sense. It's great.
Yeah. Also, Red Velvet just smacking the crap out of Cody. It's worth noting that the people that he was training with were all Nightmare family people. It was Red Velvet. It was Kylan King. It was Lee Johnson. It was Brock Anderson. And I think like that was something that was worth mentioning because Red Velvet just hauled off and paintbrushed him to start the segment. But yeah, no. It's something that Arn Anderson's threading the needle really well here and connecting the dots in this storyline.
Sean Dean was there too. I just remembered.
I didn't know Sean was there. Okay.
The captain. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Somebody will correct me if I was. But yeah, this was weird, but Arn's thing at the end made it good, tied it together in a good way. MJF was in the ring. He's got his gear on. He says he's ready for the match with Darby. Commentary is telling us Darby's not there. MJF's like, oh, I don't know if he's here. You said I couldn't break you mentally, but now you no-showed. So we're going to do a match anyway. Wardlow drags Bryce Remsburg to the ring. MJF tells him to count to 10. If Darby doesn't come out, MJF wins. As this is happening, I'm thinking like, oh, what are they going to do here? Because wins and losses matter in AEW. So if they actually go through with this, how are they going to address it? But instead, the snow falls, Sting's music hits, he comes out. MJF, when confronted by Sting, throws Wardlow in front of him and runs out. So, of course, this is going to lead to Sting versus Wardlow. No, I wish.
As it should.
Yes.
As it should. I'm excited to see Sting with Wardlow, to be quite honest.
Absolutely. Well, this was really good. Like, I don't know. It's a good story. It's fun. Sting's involvement makes sense and works. Good pro wrestling. That's a thread through this show, other than the women's division, which was featured next. Tony was backstage with Anna Jay. Britt interrupted almost immediately. She says the Dark Order are losers, and Anna Jay is nothing without them and Ty Conti. And they brawled, and that's going to lead to a match next week. I forget on which show, but it's going to be on one of the shows. Rampage, I think.
Rampage, yeah.
And that led into Penelope Ford versus Kiera Hogan. Penelope won with the Muda Lock, and Ruby Soho attacked after the match.
The high point in the match to me was like the crazy bump that both of them took off that superplex. Like Penelope Ford like jumped like 3/4 of the ring diagonally on that superplex. That was sick.
Yeah, that was good. I agree. I'm surprised this hasn't come up. We had a Miro pre-tape next, where he is promoing on God, and he asked God where he is. He says, I can't go home to my wife like this. You gave me a body of granite and a neck of sand. And he closes it by saying, God, you will make me your champion, or you will make me your enemy.
He subverted it. We all were getting kind of tired of like his Redeemer promos talking about his double jointed wife and his Old Testament God. Now he's trying to get back the wife because he can't go home yet, and he wants to beat up God. So let's go.
Yeah, this is great. It's a perfect next step for the Miro character, and it gets you reinvested in him all over again.
Oh, yeah. I forgot who posted this on Twitter. I apologize, but someone did a photo of like the lighting of Miro was like this really, it was a really dark area, but except for a yellow key light on him that was directly reminiscent of Apocalypse Now with Captain Kurtz or Colonel Kurtz on it. And someone put the photo of Marlon Brando right next to him. And I was like, oh yeah, we're going to get some like Heart of Darkness stuff up here with Miro. Like Miro is going to get really like, I mean, he believes in an Old Testament God. So it's going to get violent out of Miro.
The Hangman Page promo was next. I won't subject you to further thoughts on the promo. Just rewind if you want to think about it again. Then the main event was Bryan Danielson versus Bobby Fish. And Danielson won the match with a heel hook.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It was out of Bobby Fish stuff since he's been in the promotion. Easily the best match he had in the promotion. And that's not to say that his match he had the night before against Lee Moriarty was bad whatsoever. it was funny that the Miami, he finally got a "you're going to get your fucking head kicked in" chant in Miami, the one city where you would not think you would get that chant. He didn't get it in Philadelphia, but he got it in Miami. And that they worked pretty well, but basing it off of Danielson's knee. And then he had him in a heel hook. And then Danielson went 50-50 and got one of his own, and his was stronger. Just one of those capital G, capital M good matches. And I think it's the best match that Fish has had so far.
I really love that Danielson I think he's won every match with a different finish. Could be wrong about that, but he's certainly had at least 3 different finishes. And this wasn't even like establishing a finish. I think this was just, I can win a match, and here's me winning a match. And it's not, I don't expect him to win. Okay, so this is like a secondary or tertiary guy in Bobby Fish. I don't expect him to always beat those guys with heel hooks, for example. I think I think what's interesting to Danielson, and TJ Hawk has talked about this a lot on Twitter, is one of those things that's going to be interesting to him is almost like Inokiism of like, oh no, I can finish matches any way I want to. I don't have to do the same moves in every match and the same finish in every match. And I think that's going to be refreshing, and it's going to make the Danielson thing even more exciting than it already is.
Yeah, especially because it's like Danielson's the one who's doing that. It's like, yeah, Punk has won with the Anaconda Vice and has won with the GTS. Yeah, Kenny has won with V-Triggers and he's won with the One-Wing Angels. But the variety with Danielson, the fact that he's the one doing the variety makes him stand out. And, it's something where it's just like completely makes sense. All right, Bobby Fish has been working the knee. He caught me in the knee, but I was able to take advantage of the situation, put it back on him and win. And it's something that the wins can come out of nowhere with Bryan Danielson, and I think that'll be a really fun thing to watch in this Eliminator tournament, is if he's going to like win with a flying headbutt, like I'm expecting that next, or like the elbow, the hammer blows, the elbows to the head. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how they work his finishes, because I think that now they have something here with Danielson, and it's a nice little new dimension to his wrestling.
It definitely reminds you of that 2005 Ring of Honor run where his finishes would be, they would change, or, he would do different stuff to finish matches. So I think he's kind of doing a lot of that stuff, which is fun, and it's a new audience getting to see it. So it's very exciting. The last thing they did on the show was announce the brackets for the Eliminator tournament. You probably understand who they all are, even if you didn't see it, just by what we've talked about so far. But the matches are 10 versus Jon Moxley, Orange Cassidy versus Powerhouse Hobbs. That's the left side of the bracket. And the right side of the bracket is Dustin Rhodes versus Bryan Danielson and Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston. I expect that we'll kind of talk this out more on a future show because we've talked so much on this episode already. But I'm sure we'll get into our thoughts on how this is all going to end up somewhere else. So that's the bracket, and I think it kicks off next week. So we'll be talking about it very soon. All right. I promised, and now I'm wishing we hadn't promised, that we were going to talk Rampage on the show, but that's okay. We will, because there was some good stuff on there. The main thing I think to talk about there was the buy-in first, so we should talk about that.
Right.
And the main thing from that is Danielson versus Suzuki. I think that's what everybody came out of Friday night talking about.
Yeah, this is the thing that, even though like you had the spectacle match here, this was the big good match. And I think it was just something that they went out there. They had, if you were to ask me what an 18-minute Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki match would be, it's every bit of what happened there. It was something that was like really cool. Like Bryan Danielson, like in the start of it, you could tell with him that he was trying not to smile. Like this guy was so happy that this match was happening that like he was like forcing like seriousness. And it's just something where like the thing that really like cracks me up about this match, and this match was fun. It was great. Like it's exactly what you would hope for in the match like this, was just like Bryan Danielson being like, all right, I want you to beat the crap out of me. And then Minoru Suzuki, for who Minoru Suzuki is as a wrestler, it pops me the way he bumps. So yeah, Danielson doing incredibly realistic stuff, and then like Minoru Suzuki making silly faces and bumping really funny, and it just adds to the mystique here. It just was really a whole lot of fun, and I was just vibing watching this. Like this was something that, on like the buy-in that was basically matches building up stuff for Dynamite, and then Ty Conti and Santana Garrett. Lee Moriarty had his theme that rocked. Lee Moriarty's new thing. Mikey Ruckus did it again, Aaron. Mikey Ruckus did it again. And then they replayed stuff from Road 2 on it. But like the big highlight, of course, was this great match.
Mikey Ruckus, that motherfucker don't miss. That's just all I can say about him.
I mean, I'm trying to think the last Mikey Ruckus theme that I did not incredibly enjoy. I can't think of one. He just doesn't miss.
He doesn't miss. The Danielson Suzuki match was funny in some ways because you could almost see Suzuki getting more interested in the match as it went on.
Yes, very much so.
We talked about that on Light of like, well, what is Suzuki gonna give in this match? Like, does he care about this match? And I definitely think when it kicked off, he was like, oh, I'm just gonna do the stuff I do in most matches. And, I'll do the funny faces and, we'll hit each other hard and that'll be fun. But it seemed like he got more interested in what was happening as the match progressed, and that certainly helped the match. He hit the shit out of Bryan Danielson, and I love just watching people hit each other hard in wrestling matches. The closer it gets to danger, the more interested I am. If that makes me wrong, I'm wrong, but it's just how I feel. Obviously everybody's been talking about the forearm to Danielson that put him down, the very first one. And that was insanely sick. It rocked. It hit Danielson up on his cheek there, which was interesting. And then they had the one later where it was a similar forearm strike and Danielson went down, but then he just hit the fighting spirit and popped back up. And I lost my fucking mind. I just was so excited. I was with them definitely the rest of the match, even though I had already been with them. So it was just cool. It was fun to watch, and it didn't mean anything in the grander scheme of things, and it didn't have to. That's what was good about it.
Yeah, no, like, as I said on Light, this was a match that most likely would have happened at WrestleCon weekend if it was going to happen in the States, so why not put it up on YouTube? Like, anyone's like, oh, you're hot-shotting. Nope, that's not understanding what hot-shotting means. This is, oh, we have an opportunity here, and this is like a cool match to do and get some buzz, and it did that. And, as much as I enjoy Bryan Danielson, I do respect the fact that he's trying to, like, beat the crap out of himself, and he's trying to speed run, like getting an injury. And it's fantastic. Like, talking about the danger there, because, like, every match, his chest is blistered up. That sick forearm there, this was bad brain season, and it ruled for that.
And I haven't been able to load it up quickly enough to see where it's at now, but I know it was at like 550,000 views pretty soon after this episode. So, I think a lot of people watched it, which is what they wanted. It's up to almost 800,000 views. So, and that's more than most of what they have on here that doesn't involve CM Punk, basically. So, yeah. So I think it was pretty damn successful. Yeah. The other stuff on the show you pretty much talked about. Ty Conti. So there was talk about how Ty Conti and Santana Garrett had an NXT match that was like the first quarter hour that beat AEW. And it was like this insanely bad match that looked like they were practicing the match. And so I was like, oh, Tony's going to just shit on or flex on the developmental system in WWE with this. And I guess he did, in that Ty Conti is like a totally different person than she was in that match.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, Santana Garrett was still just like walking through spots in this match. So, oh, Santana. She's so slow. Everything she does is very slow.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to talk about that anymore, really.
You mean the fuchsia catnap, Santana Garrett?
Wild look for her. Yeah, she looked wild. So, anyway, then we had Rampage. We can run down this one. Punk versus Seidel. Punk won with the GTS. This was good, but I think just from reading Twitter, I'm the low man on this match. So I think I'm assuming you really liked it, Mike. So feel free to talk about it.
Yeah, I thought this match was really well done. And I guess like the thing that gets me about this match was less CM Punk, more Matt Sydal. And the thing about like Matt Sydal, who like they openly talked about like their history and all the lead up about it. It's like IWA Mid-South, where Punk was like the touring indie star at a time where there weren't very many touring indie stars, and IWA Mid-South was his home. And Matt Sydal was like a college kid from St. Louis, and then in Ring of Honor as well. And it's like the idea of how different of a wrestler Matt Sydal is. He's basically like a yoga technician now, which kind of rules. And he was like doing like some crazy submissions there. They just decided to just do a whole lot of apron bumps, which was very, very funny, and backdrops. That people love body slams. This was the body slams match. CM Punk did have the funniest take I've ever seen out of the lightning spiral, where he just kind of like fell over, which popped me. And I thought that was for what I was expecting out of this match. Like, this was not something where I was expecting this to be a star power or like a throwing stars at the screen match. I thought this match was perfectly acceptable. It's someone that CM Punk has worked with before, and I just really need to see what is going to happen to CM Punk at this point. I'm kind of tired of matches where he just go out there and have a good match. Like, that's not why CM Punk's here. I'm also kind of tired of him coming out and them spending 3 minutes on his entrance every show. Like, that's starting to get to me as well.
Right. I mean, the match itself, if I just was like, oh, somebody told me to watch this match, and I just turned it on, like, oh, that was a good match. I enjoyed that match. I think Punk is more compelling versus heels in the matches he's had so far in AEW.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But this was a good match. But why did it exist? What was the point of it? And if you tell me, oh, well, we got to have a Punk match on TV, that's fine. I can accept that.
Yeah,
that's fine. But what was accomplished in this match? Because you can have a Punk match on TV and also accomplish things, I think. And
yeah,
this didn't do anything for Matt Sydal, I don't think. He wasn't even involved in the Leo Rush and Dante Martin thing on Dynamite, even though that was kind of the story coming into this. So I don't think anything was accomplished for Sydal. CM Punk beating Matt Sydal doesn't do anything for him in AEW. So I just don't know what we did here, what we gained, what we learned, what we accomplished by having this match.
No, this was a match to have a match with CM Punk on TV. There's no other. There's no
maybe that's just
a
me thing. I've talked on this show several times today about like, oh, there's some stuff I just don't get that AEW does, and I just have to accept it. Maybe this is one of those things. But I just think you can serve your TV masters and your story masters at the same time. That's all.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, it's just something that, like, the fact that I say they did this match to have CM Punk to have a match on TV, that's proving your point. Like, there's no defense to it whatsoever.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with just having a match that's fun to watch on TV. I think Aaron Taub said that to us after listening to Light. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think there's more that can be done. I think you got to give Punk something to sink his teeth into. Ruby versus the Bunny. Man, this Bunny really exposes the win-loss thing, because they protected her by having Ruby win with a flash pin. Why? I'll never fucking understand. And this made Bunny 11-11. Why the fuck does she need protection?
Yeah, no, there's no reason for that whatsoever. And it's something that it's like, this is playing into the TBS title tournament. It's like, she now has a 500 record in comparison to other people in this division. This should be like, and now she's eliminated for contention to be in the TBS title tournament. Like, that's what should have happened here. And then why does Ruby have to use a flash pin to beat her and not her? I don't even know. I forget what she calls her up kick, her Pele kick variant. I think it's like the riot kick, maybe. Or that's what she called it in WWE. I don't know what she calls it here. But yeah, why?
I don't know. Yeah, right. I don't know. And I forget who said this, but somebody said, well, that's because this backside looked better than her finish, which is true. I can't dispute that. But Ruby should just beat people, man. She's cool. People like her. Don't fuck it up. Just like let Ruby cook is all I'm saying. And then the main event was an Inner Circle versus Men of the Year Junior Dos Santos match, and it was sick as fuck. I already said that Scorpio pinned Jericho after a Jorge Masvidal knee strike. It just fucking ruled. What do you need to say about it? It was awesome.
I'm going to say my catchphrase. I had a great time. This match is just what all you would want is. It was abject chaos. Junior Dos Santos, Wrestling Observer Rookie of the Year 2021. We're going to make this happen. And it just was just a whole lot of fun. Jake Hager just looked completely like the fact that like then Junior Dos Santos was like kneeing him in the stomach and all that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is actually happening here. Paige Van Zandt immediately afterward taking the selfie with Instagram, me like, they do great with like these spectacle freak show matches, and this was another one of those like spectacle freak show matches that I just absolutely love. Like, if they could find a way once a month to have a spectacle freak show match, I will be happy as a pig in mud.
If you like hearing us talk about Rampage, we do it every week on the Patreon, except these crazy Saturday weeks. Patreon.com/everythingelite. We have 3 tiers over there, $3, $5, $8. Here's the difference. $3, you get our show light, where we preview Dynamite. We talk about Dark and Elevation. Nate does the BTE recap. So, we're covering everything AEW does on the Patreon, but you get that for $3. $5, you get that, but you get every other piece of audio that we do on the show. For example, this week we had part 2 of our This Is Bryan Danielson episode, where we looked at 5 matches that spanned Danielson's career and talked about, we talked about the indie landscape throughout his career. It was a lot of fun. And we got well over 2 hours of audio.
Yeah. Close to 2.5 hours. Yeah. Close to that.
Between the 2 episodes. So you'll get that kind of stuff. Plus the Rampage episode that we call World Tour that we do every week. We have the Discord. And then at the $8 tier, you'll get the main show, a live stream where you can listen to it live as we record. Plus you can listen to the replay of it forever, but until it gets posted on our feed. So you got plenty of time to check that out. That's at the $8 feed. That's pretty much what you get. I know, Mike, you're working on a bonus episode that's going to come out next week.
Yeah, so I'm doing a Mike's Tea Break, which is kind of my long form kind of just theory in a way, like how we were talking long form about the Cowboy Shit promo. That's kind of what I do over there. This time, talking about the status of wrestling in Japan as they have ended their state of emergency and as the year comes to a close. And, America opened up with wrestling a lot sooner than Japan. And I'm taking a look at what I consider the major promotions in Japan, how they've kind of faced COVID, and how things are looking for them in the short and long term because of COVID. And that should be coming out on Wednesday. I've been talking to my folks about that, and I've only buried so far 4 different promotions in this. So we'll see if I set a new high score.
Yeah, so the Patreon generally is covering everything that AEW does, and then additional stuff that we just want to talk about at length. We have an opportunity to do it whenever we want, and so we do. So if you like hearing us talk, if you're a big AEW fan, you have to subscribe because you get everything. But if you also just like us and you want to hear us talk about other stuff that we are very passionate about, you'll get a chance to. So head over patreon.com/everythingelite and sign up. Of course, in November, we'll have instant reactions for Full Gear, a preview of Full Gear. We'll look back at last year's Full Gear. So we do lots of coverage around the pay-per-views. So get into that. Also, Rampage coming up next week is going to have Britt Baker versus Anna Jay, Andrade versus Pac. Early returns on that are that it was good, or at least Dave Meltzer says so. And the Eliminator tournament starts. I know there's a spoiler out there of which match it is. I don't remember which one it is, but I know there's an Eliminator match on that show.
Mm-hmm.
Then I
stay spoiler free for that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I just saw somebody say who it was. I can't remember now which one it was. So I'm not going to say so. And then there's going to be another Saturday Dynamite next week out of Orlando, and it is going to have Malachi Black versus Cody Rhodes, and then 2 Eliminator matches of the first round tournament matches. So what we'll do is probably similar to this week. Our light show that I talked about, which is usually on Wednesday mornings, will probably be on Friday morning again next week, and we'll look at Rampage and Dynamite. And so that's on the $3 tier on our Patreon. And then I bet we will do another Sunday weekly free show that will cover Dynamite and will also touch on Rampage, kind of like we did this week, except hopefully it'll work out for all 3 of us to be together again. But that's what's coming up next week. in AEW and in the Everything Elite universe.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's everything for this week. So make sure you're following us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Mike is at Fujiheya. Nate, who's on assignment, is at Epitasis. Subscribe, rate and review us. Subscribe to the Patreon. Head over to MyBookie. Use the promo code ELITE to get double your deposit. And that's everything. So for Mike, for the on assignment Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you next week.
Free shipping and continental U.S. only. See website for subscription offer details.
Calling all partners. Losing weight is better together with Nutrisystem's new partner plan. It's so much easier when you do it together. You'll both get new premium meals with up to 30 grams of protein. They're big and filling and taste delicious. New skillet selections that go from pan to plate in minutes. And new restaurant faves that taste like your favorite restaurant meals, portioned at half the calories. Powered by the science of ProSync to help keep your blood sugar steady and you losing weight. Motivate each other, keep each other accountable, and reach your goals with Nutrisystem's partner plan. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off everything. Don't wait. This special offer will not last long. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/diet right now and get 50% off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/diet.